Imagine waking up one day to find that an entire forest is dying. Not because of fire, not because of a storm, but because of a tiny insect. Now imagine that the solution to save that forest wasn't a chemical, wasn't a sophisticated machine, but another insect. Sounds crazy? Stick around, because the stories you're about to hear today will completely change the way you see nature. And hey, if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, do it right now. Every single day there's content just like this, waiting for you. Hit that subscribe button and ring the bell. Now, let's get into it. Let's start with a story that happened right under our noses, literally in the ground. In Australia, one of the most productive agricultural regions in the world began to silently collapse. The soil was becoming as hard as concrete. Plants could no longer take root. Rainwater rolled off the surface without penetrating, causing erosion and destroying entire crops. Farmers watched their lands, which once produced tons of food per year, become practically sterile in less than 2 decades. Specialists were called in. Researchers studied the problem for years, and the conclusion was astonishing. The soil was dead because an essential living creature had disappeared, the dung beetle. That's right, a beetle that eats and buries manure was at the center of everything. For millennia, native dung beetles in Australia lived alongside local marsupials, like kangaroos and wombats. They were perfectly designed to process the waste from these animals, aerating the soil and returning essential nutrients. But then Europeans arrived, and with them cattle. The problem was that the native beetles simply did not know how to deal with cow and ox manure. It was a different type, with a different consistency, and the insects completely ignored it. The result was catastrophic. Tons of cattle manure accumulated on the surface of Australian farms. Flies began reproducing in absurd numbers, generating massive plagues. The soil hardened, and the natural cycle that kept the land alive was completely interrupted. The solution proposed by Australian scientists in 1965 was bold and controversial. Bring dung beetles from other countries, especially from Africa and Europe, to replace the native ones in this specific function. The project became known as the Dung Beetle Project and was one of the largest biological control initiatives ever carried out in the world. More than 40 different species were introduced over several decades, and it worked. The soil began to breathe again. Flies decreased dramatically. Farmers saw their lands recover. Regions that seemed doomed started producing again. A farm in the state of Queensland reported that in just 5 years after the introduction of beetles, soil productivity increased by more than 60%. All thanks to an insect that most people don't even notice when they walk past one. But perhaps the most impressive story of ecological recovery caused by animals is that of octopuses on the California coast. Wait, octopuses saving an entire coastal ecosystem. It sounds unlikely, but it's real. And it begins with a story of destruction. During the 20th century, predatory fishing along the Californian coast almost completely eliminated a local species of lobster. This lobster was the primary natural predator of the sea urchin. With fewer lobsters, sea urchins exploded in population, and sea urchins eat giant kelp, the underwater forests of seaweed that cover vast stretches of the Pacific coast. These forests are essential. They provide shelter for hundreds of species of fish, crustaceans, and marine mammals. They regulate water temperature, they absorb carbon dioxide in enormous quantities, and they were being destroyed by billions of hungry urchins that swept through like a consuming cloud. Marine scientists watched helplessly at what they called urchin barrens. Enormous stretches of the ocean floor, once full of life and color, were now a gray carpet of urchins and nothing else. Biodiversity had collapsed. Fish species that depended on the kelp disappeared. Sea otters, which once controlled urchins naturally, had also been hunted nearly to extinction in previous centuries. It was then that researchers at the University of California had an idea. What if octopuses could help? The common octopus of the region, the Octopus bimaculoides, is a natural predator of sea urchins. In experiments carried out in protected marine reserves, where octopuses could reproduce without being fished, the results were extraordinary. In just 3 years, urchin populations in areas with high octopus concentration dropped by more than 70%, and the giant kelp came back. First slowly, then explosively. With the kelp came the fish. With the fish came the marine mammals. An entire chain of life was rebuilt by a predator that most people consider just a culinary delicacy. What unites all these stories is something scientists call the Cascade effect. When an animal is removed from an ecosystem, even if it seems small or insignificant, the consequences spread like waves on a lake. They affect species that apparently have nothing to do with that animal. They change the chemistry of the soil, the temperature of the water, the food availability for dozens of other creatures. And in the same way, when the right animal is reintroduced, those waves come back, but this time in the opposite direction. Rebuilding, restoring, reviving. There is a concept in ecology called a keystone species. It is the name given to an animal or plant that has an impact on the ecosystem far greater than expected from its size or numbers. Remove a keystone species and the system collapses. Restore it and the system recovers. Wolves in Yellowstone are the most famous example, but there are hundreds of others around the world. The tiger in the forests of India, the shark on tropical reefs, the elephant on African savannas. On Easter Island in the Pacific, researchers discovered that the extinction of a single type of hawk had triggered an explosion in the rat population. The rats ate tree seeds before they could germinate. Without new trees, the forest aged and died. Without the forest, rain ran off without being retained in the soil, causing severe erosion. The civilization that built the famous Moai statues may have partially collapsed because of this sequence. It all started with a hawk. On the Alaskan coast, the hunting of sea otters by Russian fur traders in the 18th and 19th centuries had the same devastating effect we saw in California. Without otters, urchins multiplied. Without urchin control, kelp forests disappeared. Without the kelp, fish migrated to other regions. Indigenous populations that depended on those fish for survival faced famine and social collapse. A chain of destruction started by the hunting of a single adorable animal. The good news is that nature has an extraordinary capacity to recover when humans stop interfering, or better yet, when they start helping in an intelligent way. The wolf reintroduction project in Yellowstone took less than 20 years to completely transform the park's ecosystem. The recovery of sea otters in Alaska after the hunting ban was so rapid that it surprised even the most optimistic scientists. The dung beetles in Australia began showing noticeable results in less than a decade. This tells us something important. Ecosystems are resilient, they want to recover, and sometimes all they need is a little help, in the right form, at the right moment. A beetle, an otter, an octopus, a wolf, creatures that most of us never stop to think about, but that are silently holding the world together. The next time you see an insect in the garden, or a bird on a branch, or a fish in a river, think about this. That creature is doing a job you cannot see, but upon which all the life around it depends. And when that job stops, the consequences can be felt for generations. If you made it this far, congratulations. You are part of the group of people who genuinely care about understanding how the world works. And this channel exists exactly for that. Subscribe now and ring the bell so you don't miss a single video. In the next one, We're going to talk about how species that humans considered extinct have come back in surprising ways and what that means for the future of our planet. You won't want to miss it. See you there.